We are used to loving the sun. From childhood, we are taught that it is the source of life, warmth, and light. We go to beaches to expose our skin to its rays. We rejoice in clear days. We call it by affectionate names. But this is the biggest and most dangerous lie that humanity believes. In reality, the sun is not a kind yellow ball. It is a giant, unstable thermonuclear reactor that hangs in the void and tries to kill us every single second. Right now, as you listen to these words, this star is burning 700 million tons of hydrogen. It ejects streams of pure, unfiltered death into space. Radiation, ultraviolet light, X-rays, and streams of charged particles fly through the vacuum at a speed of 400 kilometers per second, with one single goal: to wipe all life off the face of our planet. If we were left alone with the sun, Earth would be sterile. The oceans would evaporate. The atmosphere would be stripped away and carried into space, and the surface would turn into a scorched radioactive desert similar to Mars. But we are alive. We walk, breathe, and even sunbathe. Only one thing saves us. Around our planet, there is an invisible force field, a giant shield that takes the blows of the solar hammer 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for billions of years. We don't see it, we don't feel it, but without it, our civilization wouldn't last a year. But astrophysicists have bad news. This shield is not eternal. It is generated deep beneath our feet, in the very hell of Earth's depths. And right now, instruments are detecting that something strange is happening with this generator. The shield is weakening. A giant breach has already appeared over the South Atlantic, a zone where radiation breaks through closer to the surface. We are used to thinking that Earth is a fortress, but what if the battery powering our fortress's force field is starting to run low? The dynamo machine. To understand exactly what saves us from a solar apocalypse and why this protection might disappear, we need to take a journey where no human has ever gone. We need to go down, deep down. Forget about the solid ground beneath your feet. The thin crust we walk on is just an eggshell. The real life of the planet, its heart and its engine, are located at a depth of 3,000 kilometers. There, under conditions of monstrous pressure and temperature comparable to the surface of the sun, lies the Earth's outer core. This is not stone or rock. It is an ocean, an endless, raging ocean of molten liquid iron and nickel 2,000 kilometers thick. Imagine a storm of molten metal that never calms down. Because of Earth's rotation, this ocean rotates too. Coriolis forces twist streams of liquid iron into giant spirals, creating eddies the size of continents. In physics, this is called the geodynamo. Moving metal that conducts electricity creates electric currents, and these currents, in turn, generate a powerful magnetic field that bursts out of the planet's interior, passes through the mantle and crust, and goes far into space, creating that very invisible cocoon in which we live. Earth is, in essence, a giant electromagnet. We live on the surface of a working dynamo machine, and this fact should cause you not calm, but horror, because any mechanism depends on fuel and operating conditions. Our protection is not a static wall that was built once and for all. It is a dynamic, living process. The magnetic field exists only as long as the iron below moves, as long as it is liquid, as long as it is hot. We literally depend on exactly how the metal churns 3,000 kilometers beneath our boots. But the laws of thermodynamics are relentless. Earth is cooling. Since its birth, our planet has been losing internal heat. The core slowly crystallizes, hardens. The liquid ocean gradually turns into stone. And as soon as the movement stops, As soon as the dynamo machine freezes, the switch will turn off. The magnetic field will vanish. And then, between us and the fury of a thermonuclear star, nothing will remain except a thin layer of air, which will be doomed. We are living on a battery whose charge is inevitably dropping. Solar wind. Now that we know our shield depends on a fickle ocean of metal deep underground, let's look in the face of the enemy this shield protects us from. We are used to thinking that space between Earth and the Sun is emptiness, a vacuum, nothing. But this is not true. This space is filled with a fierce, invisible stream that astrophysicists poetically but deceptively call the solar wind. Don't let the name fool you. This is not a gentle breeze that rustles the curtains. It is a ceaseless radiation storm. The sun is not just a lamp. It is a thermonuclear bomb that has been exploding for billions of years in a row. And the shock wave from this explosion flies in all directions. The solar wind consists of protons, electrons, and alpha particles. These are pieces of atoms accelerated to insane speeds. On quiet days, this stream rushes through the solar system at a speed of 400 kilometers per second. On storm days, when coronal mass ejections occur on the sun, the speed can reach 800 kilometers per second. Imagine a shotgun that shoots not lead, but pure plasma, and never stops firing. When this stream crashes into Earth's magnetic field, a titanic battle of energies occurs that we neither see nor hear. Our magnetic field takes the blow, bending under the onslaught. On the sun side, our bubble is compressed and flattened. It is under constant pressure. On the night side, conversely, it stretches into a long tail, similar to a comet's tail, extending millions of kilometers into the darkness. We live inside a drop, flying through a hurricane. But what happens if this wind breaks through? It has one terrifying property. It works like cosmic sandpaper. When high-energy particles crash into air molecules in the upper layers of the atmosphere, they transfer their energy to them. This impact is so strong that oxygen and nitrogen molecules accelerate and fly out into open space, overcoming the planet's gravity. This is called atmospheric erosion. The solar wind literally strips the planet of its airy skin, layer by layer, molecule by molecule. It is a slow execution. If the magnetic field turned off right now, this process would accelerate thousands of times over. But the wind kills not only the atmosphere, it kills the very essence of life. These charged particles are tiny bullets. They are so small that they pass through roofs, through clothes, and through skin. They hit right into the nucleus of a cell. They tear DNA strands, breaking the genetic code. It is an invisible fire that burns not flesh, but the information on how an organism should live. Without a magnetic shield, Earth's surface would turn into a sterilization chamber. And the scariest thing is that this is not just a theoretical model or a bedtime horror story. We know for sure that this scenario is real because we have a clear example. Spinning right next door to us is the corpse of a planet that was once alive, but lost its shield and was devoured by the sun. The Mars scenario. To see our future, we don't need a time machine or a crystal ball. We just need to look up and see the red dot in the night sky. Mars. We are used to perceiving it as a desert, as a dead, rusty rock covered in dust and craters. But astronomers know the tragic truth. Mars wasn't always like this. 4 billion years ago, Mars was Earth's twin planet. It had a thick, dense atmosphere with white clouds floating in it. It had a blue sky. Full flowing rivers ran across its surface, flowing into a giant northern ocean that covered almost a third of the planet. It rained there. It was warm there. And, quite possibly, The first primitive life was emerging in these warm waters. But then a catastrophe occurred that killed the planet. And this catastrophe happened not on the outside, but on the inside. Mars made one fatal mistake. It was born too small. Its mass is only 10% of Earth's mass. Because of this, its internal heat, that very reserve of energy left from birth, was spent much faster. Mars cooled down. Its core, once liquid and churning, began to lose temperature. The movement of molten metal slowed down. The dynamo machine that generated the planet's magnetic shield began to falter until one day it stopped completely. The switch turned off. The planet's liquid heart turned into solid stone. And at that very second, Mars signed its own death warrant. As soon as the magnetic field disappeared, the Sun, which had previously given the planet life, turned into its executioner. The solar wind, no longer restrained by an invisible barrier, began to bombard the atmosphere directly. It began to blow the air into space. It wasn't an instant explosion, but a slow, agonizing suffocation that lasted hundreds of millions of years. Atmospheric pressure dropped. Oceans began to evaporate because thin air could no longer hold water in a liquid state. Water vapor rose up, where solar radiation split it into hydrogen and oxygen and carried it away into the black abyss. The planet dried up. It rusted because the remaining oxygen oxidized the iron in the soil, giving it the color of dried blood. Today, Mars is a global graveyard. Its atmosphere is 100 times thinner than Earth's. The surface is sterilized by harsh ultraviolet light. There is no life, no movement, except for dust storms. It is the corpse of a planet that lost its protection. And the scariest thing in this story is that Mars is a mirror. When we look at it, we see not just another planet. We see Earth in the future. Our core is cooling too. This is an inevitable process of entropy. Sooner or later, our dynamo machine will stop too. And then our blue, blooming home will repeat the fate of its red neighbor, turning into a lifeless rock orbiting a dying star. The only question is when exactly this will happen. And some data suggests that the process of destabilizing our shield has already begun. The South Atlantic anomaly. We can comfort ourselves with the thought that the fate of Mars is a matter of the incredibly distant future, that we have billions of years before Earth's core cools completely. But geophysicists have data that shatter this calm. They don't need to look into the future to see the threat. They just need to look at instruments right now. Because Earth's shield isn't just going to disappear someday. It has already started to break. Over the last 200 years, the strength of our planet's magnetic field has weakened by about 15%. That is very fast. It is frighteningly fast for geological processes that usually take millions of years. And this process is not uniform. A giant breach has already appeared in our defense. Astronomers call it the South Atlantic anomaly. It is a huge area stretching from Brazil across the entire Atlantic Ocean to the shores of Africa. In this place, Earth's magnetic shield has buckled and thinned so much that the Van Allen radiation belts, zones filled with deadly radiation, have dipped dangerously close to the surface. For us, people on the ground, this is not yet noticeable. But for those in orbit, this zone is a real Bermuda Triangle of space. When satellites fly over this area, their computers often fail, reboot, or receive critical errors. The Hubble Space Telescope, flying through the anomaly, is forced to turn off its sensitive instruments so they don't get burned out by radiation. But the creepiest testimony comes from ISS astronauts. When the station passes through this zone, astronauts talk about a frightening phenomenon. Even if they close their eyes, even if they are in the darkest module of the station, they see bright, sharp flashes of light. These are not hallucinations. These are high-energy cosmic rays that pierce the station's hull, pierce the human skull, and hit directly into the retina of the eye. This is radiation they see from inside their own heads. It is direct proof that the shield has cracked in this place. Scientists believe this anomaly is a harbinger of a global event called magnetic pole reversal. North and south change places. This has happened hundreds of times in Earth's history. On average, it happens every 200,000 to 300,000 years. But the last time, it was 780,000 years ago. We are catastrophically overdue for another flip. A pole shift is not an instant flick of a switch. It is chaos that can last for centuries or even millennia. In the process of inversion, Earth's magnetic field doesn't just turn. It gets tangled and weakens to 10% of its normal power. We could have 4 poles, 8 poles, located anywhere, even in the Sahara, even in the Pacific Ocean. Imagine a world where bird and whale navigation is broken, and they die en masse. A world where the ozone layer thins and skin cancer statistics skyrocket vertically. A world where any medium-strength solar storm doesn't just cause an aurora, but burns out all electronics on the planet, throwing us back to the Stone Age without the internet and electricity. We are living inside a shield that has already begun to burst at the seams, and we don't know how much time we have left before it collapses completely. Life without a shield? Let's imagine the most pessimistic scenario for a second. Imagine that the dynamo machine in the center of Earth stopped not for 1,000 years for a pole shift, but forever. Or that we entered a period of chaos when our planet's protection dropped to almost zero. Can humanity, this proud species that conquered nature, survive the loss of its main cosmic protector? The answer is frighteningly unambiguous. On the surface, no. If the magnetic shield disappears, the surface of Earth will cease to be a home and turn into an exclusion zone. The sun, our source of light, will become our jailer. The level of ultraviolet radiation will jump to values incompatible with biology. We will have to forget about walks in the open air. Going outside during the day will be equivalent to suicide. Skin will burn in minutes, and the risk of developing cancer will become 100%. We will have to completely rebuild our civilization. We will become a species living in the shadows. We will go underground. Cities will turn into giant bunkers going hundreds of meters deep into the crust. We will grow food under artificial light because conventional agriculture on the surface will be destroyed by radiation. Plants will simply burn. We will turn into cave dwellers of the 21st century, looking longingly at monitor screens showing a dead, scorched surface where forests once rustled and rivers flowed. We will hide from the star that gave us life. To understand how lucky we are now, it's enough to look at our neighbors. Earth is in an amazing, almost impossible equilibrium between 2 kinds of hell. On one side is Venus. It has no magnetic field, but it has a monstrously dense atmosphere that will crush you like an empty can. The solar wind couldn't blow it away, but it interacts with it, creating an ionosphere, which, ironically, helps hold this suffocating gas bag. Venus is a hell of pressure and heat. On the other side is Mars. It also has no magnetic field, but its atmosphere was destroyed, blown into space, leaving only a thin, useless haze. Mars is a hell of cold and radiation. And only Earth, squeezed in the middle, manages to maintain a perfect balance. Not too much air to crush us, and not too little to suffocate us. And this balance rests solely on invisible lines of force emanating from the core. Our civilization, our culture, our lives, all this hangs by a thread. We depend on the rotation of molten iron in the hell beneath our feet. And if this mechanism sneezes, stumbles, or stops, our entire fragile biosphere will be erased by a cosmic eraser just as ruthlessly as it happened to Mars. We are not the masters of this planet. We are passengers on a very complex and fragile spaceship whose life support system can fail at any moment, and we are powerless to fix it. Outro, final. Ultimately, the story of our magnetic field is a story about time. The laws of physics cannot be cheated. Entropy always wins. Our core is cooling. With every century, with every millennium, the internal heat of the planet that we inherited from the moment of its birth dissipates into space. The dynamo machine slows down. This will not happen tomorrow and will not happen in 100 years. But on the scale of the universe, this finale is inevitable, like the sunrise. One day, billions of years from now, the liquid heart of Earth will freeze completely. The currents will stop. The great shield that protected us from the fury of the star will disappear. And then Earth will become a second Mars, a red, dead rock from which the wind has blown away all traces of a great civilization. We live in the golden age of the planet, in a narrow window of time when conditions are perfect. We won the cosmic lottery, but our ticket has an expiration date. Understanding this fact makes us look at the ground beneath our feet in a new way. It is not just dirt and stone. It is the lid of a giant reactor whose operation is the only thing separating us from non-existence. We must appreciate this protection while we have it. But if the cooling of the core is a slow and distant process, then there are forces in space capable of destroying our world much faster and more suddenly. The magnetic field is our shield, but Earth has another, no less important guardian. One who is responsible not for protection from radiation, but for the very stability of our rotation. If this stabilizer disappears, our shield will no longer help us, because the planet will simply go crazy. If you want to know what end-of-the-world scenario can happen, not in 1 billion years, but literally in 24 hours, be sure to watch the video about what happens if the moon disappears. The link will appear on your screen right now. Click to find out why our satellite is not just a beautiful lantern, but a life support system, the shutdown of which we will not survive.